likens her stand against Britain's drug laws to Emmeline Pankhurst's battle to win the vote for women. The 68-year-old has been found guilty of growing and possessing cannabis in breach of a suspended jail sentence. Our correspondent Danny Savage was at the court in Carlisle. He told me why Mrs. Tabram feels the need to take cannabis.
Well, Patricia Tabram says she takes the drug because conventional medication that she's been given on prescription doesn't work for her. She says that if she didn't take cannabis, she'd end up wearing a neck brace and having to use walking sticks, and that other medicines made her feel suicidal. She says she was introduced to cannabis almost by mistake by a friend. She took it one day some years ago, didn't know what it was, but it made her feel a lot better. She then realised what it was, and instead of smoking it, because she didn't like smoking, she started adding it to her food. So she adds it to her chocolate cakes and casseroles and cups of hot chocolate, and that's how she takes her cannabis. And she says she only uses very minute amounts, but it alleviates her health problems.
What did the judge make of those arguments?
The judge today said there is absolutely no defence of medical necessity. It's not correct, it doesn't exist, and that there is no defence in law for the arguments that Patricia Tabram was putting to the court. However, she told the jury that she couldn't direct them to find her guilty, but she said you may have sympathy and empathy with the defendant, but you must put these feelings aside. And within 15 minutes of sending the jury out to consider these charges, one of possessing cannabis, one of cultivating cannabis, within a quarter of an hour the jury were back with a unanimous guilty verdict on both charges.
This case raises some serious and to some degree familiar issues.
Absolutely. I mean, let's not forget that cannabis is a Class C banned drug. There are plenty of medical experts that say the use of it can lead to long-term psychological problems, and that if you start using cannabis you can quickly advance onto using harder drugs, and as the law stands it can't be used and you can be prosecuted for having it in your possession. So it's raised those familiar issues, but there were other people in court today. There was one lady suffering from multiple sclerosis who says that that cannabis is the only thing that alleviates her symptoms. So it's not just this one isolated case of this 68-year-old grandmother. There are plenty of people who argue that they should be allowed to use cannabis to help them with their ailments.
And how did Miss Tabram react to the verdict?
She was given 250 hours community service and told if she continued to keep taking cannabis she would go to prison. And I had a quick chat with her when she came out of Carlisle Crown Court a little while ago about what she made of the sentence she'd been given.
Well, 250 hours community service, I'm sure I can manage that in the next year, but the £1,000 fine I think is over the top. But then no justice has been done here.
The law as it stands in this country is that what you're doing is illegal. I mean, how defiant are you about this? Or are you still going to put it in your food?
I'm still going to medicate with cannabis. This court is not fit for purpose. When you get the whole lot put together, I'm taking up an appeal. I'm also putting a complaint in about the fact that I wasn't allowed to have a defence. And we'll see where it goes from there. But there is no... I was told, actually, I read a book by Lady Kennedy, and she said that the law and justice does not exist in this country anymore, and it's happened in the last 10 years.
I mean, many people will say that you know, cannabis is a banned Class C drug. You could be doing damage to yourself by taking it in your food.
You do more damage to yourself by taking NHS medication. I got 13 or 15 side effect illnesses. I couldn't walk. I had to buy a medical bed at a cost of over £1,000 from NHS medication. You're not nowhere near any danger with cannabis.
You say you're defiant, you're still going to keep putting it in your food, but the judge made it pretty clear a few minutes ago. Yeah, I know, but she said that, you know, if you keep doing this, you will go to prison. Are you prepared to go to prison?
I'm prepared to go to prison because I think it's about time this government woke up and realised that our laws are draconian. There are 17 countries in this world, plus most of them from the European Union and the British Commonwealth. Australia, New Zealand, all the countries in Europe, there are 17 cannabis clubs in major cities. Everyone, it's even decriminalised in Canada.
Now, but the judge said you have to operate within the parameters of the law in the UK. I mean, can you see a stage where you could try and take this to a different authority to try and get the law changed?
Well, I'm actually getting in touch with some members of the House of Lords and House of Commons to try and do something about it, because we can't really do anything about it until we get rid of the present Prime Minister, who's caused all these problems in the last 10 years. And with his arrogance out of the way, we might get someone into power who cares about the community. I've got a folder of information from the European Union. It states that the countries where they have decriminalized cannabis, the use has gone down to less than 5% of the community. The only countries where it's got a high percentage of 18 to 20% of the community using it are the stupid people who run America and England.
Now, but to summarise, you're still going to put it in your chocolate cakes and your stews and everything else?
I need it to keep me out of pain. I get 5 hours pain relief from 1 cup of hot chocolate with cannabis in, or 1 casserole with cannabis in. Now 5 hours, that's better than the relief you get from morphine, and modern medication is full of chemicals. I don't want them in my body.
Patricia Tabram talking to our correspondent Danny Savage. And if you've any thoughts on what you've heard, what Mrs. Tabram had to say, and perhaps you'd like to express them and debate them with other listeners, you can do so on the PM blog, pcv.com.